What's up, everybody? My name is Kier, and you are watching The Important Things That Really Matter. Today, we're going to continue on with our series of Artists, You Are the Business. And this section of Artists, You Are the Business, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the independent artists. And specifically, not just the independent artist, but what the independent artist owns and what the independent artist owns and not owns and controls. When you're an independent artist, and if you pay for everything, then you control everything. But sometimes what a lot of artists tend to do over time is, even by starting out being an independent artist, they may eventually decide they want to go over and start working with the record label. We're going to be specifically talking about the independent artist, what you control, what you don't control, what you own, what you don't own. And so when you're an independent artist, if you go into a studio, and as an independent artist, you're paying for your studio time, you're paying for the use of the studio engineer to mix your project. You're paying for the artist to come in. You're paying the artist. You're paying for everything. When you're an independent artist and you didn't pay for studio time, the artist to come in to play on your project, and all the costs associated with studio time. When you do that, then you own your masters. That's because you pay for everything. Now, what do I mean by masters? Because some people don't know what masters are. Whoever writes the lyrics is the owner of the lyrics to the song. Now, if I'm writing some lyrics to a song and somebody is assisting me in writing lyrics to the song, then we are both co-owners. So it's more than one owner of the song. If I am composing the music for a particular song, and I have someone come in and to perform or help me to compose the music, then we are co-owners. But this is very important. When you're dealing with artists, you have to have them to sign what they call a work for hire agreement. The work for hire agreement basically means that you're paying them to come into the studio, perform, you pay them, but they don't have any ownership or anything. So that's what you call a work for hire. And most of your artists that you have come in, you want them to sign a work for hire. And sometimes you don't have to have them sign a work for hire. It is best to have people sign a work for hire agreement, period. That way you control and you own everything. If you don't, there is a possibility somebody can come back and say, well, I contributed to somebody's project, I sung on it, and I'm part owner of it. Now, they can say that. That's why you have them sign a work for hire agreement. The work for hire agreement, once again, just states that I'm hiring you. Your job is to sing on this track or sing on a number of different tracks. Your job is, as a musician, to come and play your keyboard on this track or a number of different tracks, or in some way, shape, or fashion, you're contributing to the project, but they do not own any rights or any ownerships to the project, to the CD, or any tracks. You follow me? So it is extremely important that you do have people sign a work for hire agreement. There are some people that they don't have to have them sign a work for hire agreement because it's already understood before they come into the studio that they're not going to have any ownership and they're going to get paid as soon as they finish. But if you're the type of person that you just have paid everything and you have everybody sign a work for hire agreement and whatnot, then you control everything. You will own your masters. And as an independent artist, that is good. That is a very, very good thing if you own your masters. And you will also own the lyrics if you don't have anybody co-writing with you. You will also own the music if you don't have anybody co-composing with you for the music. So these are the extremely, extremely good benefits in being an independent artist, is that you have control and you have ownership on stuff. So for example, if you happen to go into a studio, if you wrote the lyrics and you like the lyrics just the way they are, you can leave them the way they are. But like I said before, we're talking about ownership. We're talking about control. Once you start working with the record label, you're not going to have no control. You're not going to have any ownership. And if you do, it's going to be very, very little control, very, very little ownership. Once you start doing business with the record label, they can pretty much control everything, and they pretty much own everything. If you own anything, it's going to be such a small percentage of something that you own, even if you put the most of the project together yourself. Once you start doing business with the record label, that's it. I'm just telling you, that's it. Whatever they tell you to do, you're going to have to do. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so one of the things you will find is that, let's say, for instance, you went out there and you put together all of your projects, your tracks and everything, and you may have even done a very, very good job in putting together your projects and your tracks. You may have done a top-notch job, and you may have decided you want to work with a record label now. Well, the record label may hear your stuff and say, oh, wow, you did a good job on it, but we can do a better job with our equipment and stuff. We can do a better job, a more top-notch job on your project, and let us see what we can do with it. Well, as soon as they take your project, load it into their system, even if they only take the fader and move it a 1/16 of an inch or a 32nd of an inch, they're gonna own your masters, because now they didn't put their hands on it. As soon as they put their hands on it, now they maintain control. So even if you put the whole project together and you came in, once you let them touch it, once you let them touch your stuff, and even if the only change that they made was, like I said, they moved the fader a 1/16 of an inch on one channel, well, now they're gonna own your master. You're not gonna have no control over anything anymore. So you need to keep that in mind. Once they touch your stuff, that's it in terms of control and ownership. If you're working for a record label and you're writing lyrics, so because some artists do write their lyrics, the record label can come to you and say, well, I don't like this line or this whole section of the song. All this needs to be changed. And so this person here this person comes in and change that whole section of your song. Or even if they just change one line of the song. Well, once they change one line of your song or a whole section of the song, guess who now is part co-owner of the lyrics to your song? That's right, whoever puts their suggestions in. And not that their suggestions are really gonna be good. They may literally do that so that they now are part co-owner of the song which you initially wrote. A lot of people gonna come with their opinions about what they should do and what they should not do. And a lot of times what you need to take consideration is people are not trying to do it to make your project necessarily better. Many times they're doing different things to make sure that you will have to pay them, or now they're part or co-owner of the song. And there's nothing that you can really do about that unless you're an independent artist and you don't have nobody help you with that. So once somebody comes in and make the changes, that's it. You now got a co-owner. For example, for instance, you had the name of your song is Song. So the name of your song is Song. Person at the record label says, I think you should have the name of your song, The Song, instead of Song. And you'd be like, yeah, that sounds better. Yeah, let's make it The Song. So now you wrote the whole song, the whole body of the song, all the different sections of the song. And at the top, you got Song, and all this person did was come in and put The to make it sound better. Well, guess who's now co-owner of your song that you just wrote? And all they did was put in a 3-letter word. Well, that person who put that 3-letter word in there, now they're co-owners. Now you got to pay them. Now every time that your song is played on the radio or in the movies or any aspect where anybody can hear it, now you're not only supposed to get paid every time it's played, but now you got to pay this guy. You got to pay this guy to put the word The in your song. Okay? I'm just stating the fact. Another thing that you need to be careful of too is that if you have somebody that's in your studio, you're recording, and you have to be careful who you got in the studio with you. Because they can sit up and say, well, I'm co-writer of the song. For example, you can have a person that was just sitting in the studio and they watching everything, and And they can say, well, I think you need to do that. If you take their suggestion, they can say they're co-writer of the song. Or they can say, well, they participated in writing some of the music, even though they just offered a suggestion. Now you're in a court battle with them because they happen to say they helped you write the song, and you and maybe another person was sitting there like, this person didn't help write anything. That person was just sitting there in the studio with you. And so it's important. You want to also make it a point, have very few people in the studio with you, because if it's verified that they were in the studio with you, they could make the claim that they helped you write. So keep as few people in the studio with you as possible. So this is what I'm talking about. You can have a person come in and just play the bongos a little bit, and it's not because their suggestion made your song any better. What their plot, plan, and scheme was okay, they play the bongos a little bit, so that now you have to pay them because they helped compose the music. If you don't believe people do that, there's one very, very well-known music producer that's on television regularly, and he told everybody that's what he used to do. He come in, play the bongos on something, like anybody play bongos. You can get a little kid to play bongos, okay? And so the people will have to pay him royalty. So you need to keep all these things in consideration. When you're working for a record label, if they tell you to change something in your lyrics, you're gonna have to change the lyrics. If they tell you to change something in the music composition, you're gonna have to change something in music composition. And everybody who gave you those suggestions, they now become part owner of your song. Whether their suggestion was valid or not, and probably in most situations, their suggestion is probably not gonna be valid. I was working on a project with a guy one time. I composed all the music, and it came out really, really nice, really, really nice. And so I sent it to this guy, and he loved it. His wife loved the music. He loved the music. His kids loved the music. Probably any other people that he let listen to it loved the music. So anyway, the guy called me because he lived in another state. I said, what's going on? How you doing? He said, fine. I want you to talk to somebody. So I'm like, who does he want me to talk to? Now, he had already told me all these different people that liked the music that I had sent him, and he was in the process of using it. So he put this guy on the phone. He's supposed to be a music producer. He said, oh, how you doing? My name is such and such. I'm like, good, how you? I'm still trying to figure out why is this guy on the phone, period. But anyway, so this guy gets on the phone and says, yeah, that was some good music you put together. I'm like, yeah, okay. So he said, I think you need to do this to the song, and you need to do that to the song, you need to do this to the song. I'm like, whoa. Hold up, pump your brakes. Once again, who are you? The guy tells me his name. I'm like, okay, I hear your name, but I'm like, who are you? So he tells me he's a music producer. I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm a music producer too, and I sent the guy that handed you the phone my music. He stated he loved it. He said that his wife loved it. He said that his kids loved it. A number of other people loved it. So why do you have any opinion about my music? Well, I'm the music producer. Okay, well, that's great. Well, I tell you what, and he's telling me things I need to change in my music. Now, if I had went in and make those changes that he wanted in my music, that would have made him now co-owner of the song that I sent this particular guy. This guy was giving his opinion, and his opinion wasn't needed, and the suggestions that he was given wasn't really needed either. It wasn't making the song any better. So I told the guy, okay, thank you for your opinion. Not that I asked what your opinion was, but thank you for your opinion. And basically, in a nutshell, I just let him know that his opinion really wasn't needed. And I told him if he is so concerned about changing things around in my music, maybe what he needs to do is go create his own music and present it to the same guy. So he already has my music. So if you have some concerns or anything about my music, why don't you go create your own music, and you can have the guy who I sent the music to compare my music to whatever music you put together, And whichever one that he likes the most, you will go with that one. And so when I told him to go make his own music, he was like, well, you know what that means? That means he didn't know how to compose any music. He's just one of those guys that calls himself a music producer, and I think you ought to do this, and I think you ought to do that. And he don't even have a music background. So this is what I'm talking about when you're dealing with record labels. You could have people that may not even have a music background, and I'm giving my opinion about this, and I'm giving my opinion about that, and this is what I think you should do. And it's like, dude, you don't even know how to read any music. And when's the last time you even played on a piano? When's the last time you composed any music? Like I stated before, the guy was going, so he didn't have any background in music. So basically, in a nutshell, to prevent myself from rambling, what I'm just trying to tell you is that a lot of people that give you suggestions, their suggestions may not necessarily be needed. They're offering suggestions so that they can state that they are now co-owners of your music, okay? You have to now pay them and pay them royalties every time your music is being played on the radio or in the movies or whatever. So keep that in mind. The main thing in having control as an independent artist, pay for everything. And I know it's a lot of money, but it's a lot less money if you pay for it yourself as opposed to going through a record label. You're going to be the last one that gets paid if you go through a record label. You are going to be the last one that's being paid. And like I stated before in past videos, it is common practice in the record industry, in the music industry, it is common practice to screw over the artist. Let me say that again. It is common practice to screw over the artist. Remember that. So, having said that, try to do as much as you can yourself and make sure everybody signs work for hire agreements for the artists that you have to come in so that nobody has ownership except for you. All right, we're going to go on to the next video real soon, and you have a good one. Peace.